Welcome back to the Desert Well, where we gather every week around the well that is Jesus to drink deeply from his good news that he offers to you, to me, to the world, but also to be a part of the conversation. And so we've returned from mildly warm, very humid Phoenix.
Well, very humid is like 30%.
Well, it felt really, it even rained a couple of days while we were there.
It did.
And so we returned from Phoenix from our church body synodical convention we told you about. I don't know if that was the last episode or a couple now at this point, but we wanted to talk about it. You know, we sort of did the, hey, this is what convention is, this is how it works, and we felt like it would be good for you to hear and just honestly fun for us to kind of process back through what happened. So, favorite part of our time, why should somebody listen to it?
So we went back through some of the resolutions that were really good, really positive. So I think it's important to kind of hear what our church body is doing, is celebrating some of the positive movements in there. We did talk about some of the more like highly debated things and, kind of what happened with that too. But overall, it was a fun 6 days. It was a lot of work. It was 6:15 or 6:30 in the morning until 6 at night, plus more conversations and things that happened after hours. So yeah, all of it was fun. And I hope that you can see that we enjoyed the process. We enjoyed being able to serve in that capacity, and part of that serving is trying to give you some of the information that occurred at convention.
Right. So thanks for being here this week as we gather around the well that is Jesus. Enjoy. So I wrote notes on like
It's very
things,
fitting.
very me thing on my Etch-a-Sketch. And I've actually realized a few things that maybe I think will surprise you, because it surprised me about some things that I thought were happening that we didn't approve, actually. So, let's start here. And let's just give like a...
Should we give a rundown of why we have so many books first?
It's sort of like a, let's talk more logistics first.
Can I just show this first, though?
Yeah, you can. Go ahead.
The convention coloring book that was produced by the Pacific Southwest District. So if you don't know, that's President Gibson.
I wanted to say whatever AI program they used to make him, they could have done a lot better.
They didn't give him a goatee.
Yeah, it doesn't really look like him. Short of his like blue shirt and tan pants.
Right. Did you use this at all?
The coloring book?
Yeah.
I didn't even open it.
I opened it and flipped through it, and I was like, I don't really have time to...
It was in my list of things, or pile of things I gave to the kids when I got home.
I'm a little disappointed I didn't do this.
Here's the thing. Oh, nice.
But,
there you go.
Yeah.
Emily said there was something in there about like a prize or...
yeah, there's a coloring contest.
Yeah.
CUI was doing a coloring contest.
So I guess I missed out on the coloring contest.
Yeah, I did too.
Somewhat older. Busy that way?
All right, sidetrack.
No, you're good. So, let's refresh our own memories, right? So we showed people the convention workbook. Right?
Yeah, so pre-convention we got the workbook, which has all of the overtures, all of the election stuff, all of the reports.
Well, it doesn't have all the election stuff.
Well, no, but it has who's up for election and whatnot, doesn't it?
That's what this is.
I thought that was just the biographies, though.
Yeah, I thought this who's up for election.
Right, but didn't it list out who was? Like,
oh, maybe. I don't know.
I think so. Anyways, this is like everything that you need to know.
Right, beforehand.
Yeah, maybe minus the elections.
Everything that went into there.
Yeah.
It's probably in there. I just didn't look at that if it was in
So
there.
all 520 pages?
Yes. All 300 overtures, 500 pages. The first half is all reports, things like that.
Yep.
And then we got this biographical synopses and statements of nominees. So these are all the people that were for the positions that were in there, that allowed their names to stand, were put on there by the committee of people who allowed and put together ballots.
Yeah, so we use this one a lot.
For voting.
When they would go through the different... So that was interesting, too, because I figured we would just do all the voting at once, but we didn't.
That would be awful.
I mean, get it done.
We would probably spend like a whole day if we would have done that on like just vote all day long. Because they came up like, what, 4 times?
5 times? Anytime that there's like any
Floor
possibility
committee
for them.
1, right?
11.
11, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. I've already forgotten.
But yeah, it was
So that's that.
fun.
And then
The workbook we didn't really use. I mean,
I was flipping back and forth, especially when there were some that were like, oh, I should go and read what they're referencing. Because sometimes
Yeah,
they reference overtures, and then I would definitely open it up and go like, oh yeah, what are they talking about? Because someone even like made a motion to adopt a resolution or an overture.
the
from
wording
workbook.
of the overture.
Right. But yeah, barely used, I would say. Still on my table though,
Yes.
next to the person who was way too close to me and didn't shower.
So we should say we had to bring all of this every day.
It was like college. Do you feel like college again to you? Sort of like a bring all of your books to class, and your backpack is so heavy because of all
And
the
if you
big books you got.
and if you forget something, you're completely lost.
Yeah, you have no idea what's happening.
Yes.
And you're in a room with a bunch of people that you don't know.
Yeah.
Listening to the speaker up front. Yeah, there you go. Interesting. Not thought about that. You want to describe this one for him again?
So the Today's Business, this was the original Today's Business that was
The
published.
first version of Today's Business.
So this came out prior to convention. It has the floor committee's initial resolutions in here. And so this was like the true groundwork of the floor committees, taking the overtures, writing the resolutions, but then this was our job to read through this, read the resolutions, and then when it opened for floor committee, like open comments,
Convention
open hearing, whatever.
Oh, yeah, you're going back to Saturday.
Yeah, so the very first day before convention actually started, we could go and we could speak about these
Right.
to give our opinions and
Blasphemy.
thoughts.
Blasphemy.
And then that allowed the floor committee to go back through and make amendments to their resolutions to present to the floor
If they wanted
at
to.
convention. If
Don't
they
have
wanted
to.
They don't have to.
And then once...
So
once
this is all the original. So this was 200 pages of original
then,
work stuff.
every day, I really wanted to be in that room with
So
people.
let me just say this too.
Sure, go ahead.
This had to be on our desk or on our table every day too, because oftentimes if it was an original resolution that wasn't amended, we'd have to read it out of here.
And then every day when we came to convention, on our tables was the latest version of Today's Business. And so this
Yes.
actually came out usually like 11, 12 a.m., so 11 p.m., 12 a.m. And in it, or a few things. So some of it was about what happened the previous day. There's also like a, hey, what are the resolutions that we passed, and if were there amendments? There was something called the consent calendar. I don't know how much we want to get
Did
into
you
that.
use the tally box?
No.
So I did every day, other than Thursday, because we didn't vote on many things on Thursday.
But I
But
just figured they'd update it for me the next day anyway.
yeah, but it was helpful to go through. And so one thing that I learned from my father-in-law when he was sitting next to me is he's like, well, it's helpful if you write down the percentages
Oh, sure.
and for
like
the
how
elections
much.
and things too, because then you can kind of, if it's a similar topic, you can kind of look back and have some of an understanding of like where it's the vote is probably going to go.
Sure.
Or if you
Or like now in this case, you could.
or if you
look
need to
back.
get up and sway people, you kind of know ahead of time what your work is.
Sure.
So that's how I used it, and I used it every day. So I'd go through and I would write in it, and I would write AD for adopted, right? Their same language, put the percentage next to it.
Sure.
If it was a voice vote, I put VV for voice vote.
Oh, sure.
So then that way I could keep track of like how many times did the chair figure out, or just be like, yeah, we're going to do this.
All in favor say
Yep.
yes. Those opposed say no.
And then that way too, I knew that it wasn't a, if it, there were no percentages with that one. Let's put it that way.
Right. Yeah, because
So-
there's always is either unanimous or like one or two or a few.
Yep.
So then also in here every day were revised resolutions. So this would be the floor committees who would work together. I don't know when they did this, but sometime they got together and revised their
I'm
resolutions.
assuming they had to do it like
At night? I mean, after
Yeah,
6.
they would have had to before
When convention
before
was
11
over.
o'clock, or whenever the new Today's Business was published.
Crazy. So then, when that would happen, like a resolution would then gain a letter. So 201A, 113A, etc.
Yep. And then if there were further revisions, it would be 201B.
Correct. If it's coming from the floor committee.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, yeah.
So then there's also the ability for people, any voting delegate, to submit either brand new resolutions, so like fully new, you can give it a new number, or you could also submit amendments for the people for the convention floor to consider. And so whenever people would do those, because you have to submit it in writing to get it sort of formally approved on, it's better if you do it the night before and get it in the Today's Business so people can look at it.
Well, and especially if somebody wanted to propose an amendment that
To the bylaws.
that changed the wording of the bylaws, it had to be approved by the CCM first.
Committee on Constitutional Matters.
Yes. And they had to determine if
We've already lost half the people.
Yeah.
Everyone has already turned this off.
if it was allowable, and then they would present it.
Right. And so then there was other information. So like this version I'm looking at has election candidates on it, things like that. So we got one of these every day: Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So what I would do, I would cross off our list of schedule because I was like, oh yes, we're almost done for the day, trucking through things, stuff like that. And so these are the documents we'd be referring to.
Yeah. So every day we had to have all
least
of these things open. Plus, they would give us the minutes from the day before.
Right. Yeah, I have those too.
Yep.
Convention minutes.
And so they would reference Tuesday's today's business, or Monday's today's business, or Wednesday's today's business, and then the next thing that we would be voting on might be in something different. So we'd have to have all of them up. But thankfully, they would put the page number, and so you could kind of flip through and be like, okay, in today's business, we ended up with 400 some pages.
Right.
By the end. Yeah, we're 450 pages by the end of today's business.
So we would say things like, on Sunday's version of today's business, on page 281, resolution 3A, lines 20 through 24. And then it would be, they would say it again.
Yeah, which actually I will say, I loved the organization of it because I don't know how else you would do it.
Right.
Like, honestly. So I was very impressed with the thoroughness of it all.
Secretary Sias, John Sias?
Yes.
Of our church body. Did a great job in that way.
I would.
Hats off to him.
Yeah.
There's no way I could probably organize this and
Well,
keep
and
it all straight.
And yeah, doing the minutes while like publishing all of this stuff too, and then printing this for.
And he has a team.
Yeah, but for
still.
2,000 people every day.
Right.
And so we would show up, and this would be on our table where we were sitting. So that was cool.
Yeah.
We didn't have to go find things, which was great.
Yes, it was all there for us. All right, so that's all the details.
Yep.
Now let's talk about kind of the what, if you will. The what. That's not a real phrase. So I want to preface this way, that I want to be honest, right? I mean, we're having a conversation, so it's not like we need to pretend or hide, etc. But I also want to be honest about that there are some things where getting down into the nitty-gritty details of various things I think would be unhelpful for people.
Sure.
So sort of like hey, I'm going to share what I think will be helpful for you to know. Yes, some of the frustrations, but not in such a way that I feel like will cause you to stumble, etc., etc. So what I did is I went through and I looked at some of the resolutions that I thought were positive, if you will, that we passed. I made some notes about what I thought were some of the most difficult parts of convention, but I want to say sort of two things before we go there. So big picture realizations. And so I'll give you a second to think about your what are your big picture takeaways from the whole thing? Because people listen to the first 10 minutes and then they're done. So if no one would watch the rest of this and listen to the rest of it, I hope that people would know that even in our church body, where people have lots of different opinions about practice and how we live out our theology, we are very much united in doctrine, in confession, in teaching.
Yep.
And so,
Yeah, very much so. And I would say that's something that would be unique, I think, maybe about the LCMS versus some other denominations, is we're not fighting about the like core of who we are and what we believe, which is very nice.
right. Well, then we can
get
argue
to
about
other things. Right.
And I think that's even something that in the moment is hard to somewhat always call yourself back to, because you're faced with the like, hey, I think this resolution should go this way, or I think it should be changed in that way, and you're not thinking, oh yeah, remember, we're all on the same team here.
Right.
We're all the same, theologically, doctrinally stuff.
And like I remember this very specifically, that when President Harrison got up and he was talking, I don't remember, I think it was maybe in his first day, one of his first addresses, he brought up Paul and how Paul was persecuted and the things that Paul was dealing with within the churches and the letters and things that he was writing to churches and all the hardships that Paul was facing. And he said, oh, what Paul would have loved to be here and have our problems.
Right.
Because they're nothing compared to what he was experiencing.
Right. So I think that's one of my big picture things is, hey, we're more, the cliche phrase I think would be, we're more united than we are divided. But I think it is true. Like, even though there's strongly held opinions about a lot of things, that I do truly believe that. Another big picture thing for me was that the most hopeful thing about our church body is not the phrase is Synod Inc., like not the corporation of Synod, and that's not to disparage those people who serve in that, but the most hopeful thing for me was the people, the pastors, the church workers that I got to talk to. And so you saw this. I was on I don't think I've been in that much of an extrovert mode in quite a long time.
Same.
And and so it was just, I've told other people that I don't know, I guess I thought I might know a few people, and of course I didn't know everyone, but I knew so many more people than I thought I was going to, and so many of people that I was actually at the seminary with, either people who graduated before me or after me, or that I knew from this or that thing. It was unbelievable. And just I texted Emily and said, oh, I just ran into this person. Isn't that crazy? And she said, no, you're at the Lutheran, Church Missouri Synod Convention. And so it was a reminder for me that, sure, we're a church body of 2 million members, but our called workerness is a lot smaller.
Well, and I would even say that I wasn't expecting it to the level that I saw it either, or expecting to run into anybody that I knew, because most of the pastors that I know are, relatively the same age, and it's most of them probably aren't at a level within their ministry yet to be serving in
to be sent by their circuit for convention.
And so I would say that is another positive that I would say, that when I went into it, I was thinking it was going to be more of the older generation.
Like the retired guys. Yeah. Hey, I'm retired. I'll go to convention for sure.
I don't have to go to work.
Right. I'll go there.
And I would say that it was probably, I don't know the exact number, but 50-50. There were far more younger delegates there than what I was expecting.
Right.
And so I think that bodes well for our synod in the long run. So it was very nice to see people of our generation, but even younger, getting involved.
That means we're getting old.
I know. Getting involved in this way, and not only getting involved, but getting involved in a big way. There were lots of young people that got up to the microphone and talked.
I'd say far more.
Yeah.
Than.
And so it was nice to see, nice to hear their perspective, because they are the future of the church. And
They're the present and the future.
well, yes, but they are working their way up into leadership roles, right? Much like our millennial generation is doing too. And so it was very nice to hear that voice and to see those people there.
Right. And I think it was surprising because the caricature of an LCMS pastor, because it's somewhat true, like it's a boomer generation person, because that's the largest demographic of pastors in our church body. And so, that's the people that are just going to be there, and maybe there'll be a few of people who are not that generation. And I also was somewhat like, wow, like, all right, cool. Like, it did not fit whatever stereotype I didn't have or knew I had in my mind.
And I would say the other thing that it wasn't surprising, but maybe it took me off guard. I wasn't expecting to see it as much. Maybe was the women voting delegates, and in a convention where that was discussed and how women can play a role in church ministry and things. Because of course I sat in the back, so I could see all of you voting delegates, right? And so it was good to see.
Yeah, because so obviously no woman is going to come as a pastoral delegate,
right?
But they could come as a lay voting delegate out of their circuit. And did they say ever how many were? Like, they didn't give a percentage, I don't think.
No, but you would figure half.
Yeah, I mean, it was
half of the voting delegates would be lay delegates.
Right. And so if there were 940 lay delegates, if you cut that in half, that's like 450 to take out the pastors. And so of the 450, would you say like 200 of them probably were women? Or is that a little high?
No, that's probably high. I'd say
100?
50 to 100.
Okay.
Yeah. It wasn't so much that it was like...
Yeah, there were just more maybe than you think there should be.
I just wasn't...
not should be, that's the wrong word.
Yeah.
More than I was expecting.
Yeah, agreed.
In a very male-dominated, led church body. So people, most hopeful thing, and I tell a little bit more about that. So the way the day flowed, we got up early, had our breakfast usually 6:15 on Sunday morning, but then 6:30 on Monday and Tuesday. And then we would do our thing there with our district. The president would kind of brief us on what's happening during the day, open the floor for questions, and then walk over to convention where we would start every day with some sort of worship, and then go into the business of the day. And then that would go, we'd take a break around noon. The chair would call the orders of the day, somewhat regardless of where we were, depending on what was good for the situation. And then we would take an hour and 15, usually, I think, 12 to 1:15.
1:30.
Or 1:30, so an hour and a half for lunch. And
1:30 was usually the start of like the
midday prayer.
Midday prayer, and then there was usually some type of
Info.
essay or presentation or welcome thing. So we really didn't get back to business until like 2:15.
Right. And so that was a connection point. So, we got to go out to lunch with your father-in-law, we call him Pastor Snow or Pastor Scott, whatever.
Pastor Snow.
Pastor Snow.
I just call him Scott. But
yeah, so we got to go to lunch with Scott. We went with one of my some friends on whatever day that was. But that was a great connection point with those good people. We even met a guy when we went to the hot dog place, which was neat. Meet a guy who
when we went to the dog house.
Yes, the dog house. Haus, the
Correct.
German way. So house, or however you would say that
House.
in German, with a German accent. And so then...
His name was Larry.
Larry.
Yeah.
From Michigan. So
And
he's
we
never
also
going to watch us, but hello, Larry.
Hi,
Good to see
Larry.
you.
And then we also met, started with the J, the guy who left his water bottle.
Oh. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't
Justin,
know.
Jeremy.
Something who sat to our right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just side story, we were at this restaurant for lunch. This guy left his water bottle from convention that we got, and my father-in-law, who's very good with names
friendly.
And faces, was like, "Oh, I'll take it back and see if I can find him." And we told him there's not a chance that you're going to find him.
On the floor of 1,000, 1,500 people.
And it took him no less than 5 minutes to find him when we got back.
That's crazy.
So it was really cool.
That is Scott in a nutshell.
Yes.
And so then we'd go back, do our business for the rest of the day, and then every day convention would end at 6 o'clock. And then there were a couple events afterwards. There was an LDRL,
Alumni events.
an LHM thing, alumni events. There was a president's reception one night. And those are all like the connection points. But then it was also like, hey, after we do dinner, wherever you do dinner, I didn't really eat dinner a couple of nights because I just kind of ate snacks from those events. But then it was even more like, hey, let's just hang out and talk.
Right.
And so, I was like, yep, well, it's another late night. Go to bed at 11, go to bed at 1.
Yeah, every night was a late night for you.
Yeah, well, I'm used to
It's
going
just
to bed at like
normal
9:30. And so to stay up that late was so late. But it was also like just so great because it's like, hey, I get to sit and talk with people who are doing ministry and get to kind of have that encouraging moment with people. And at least that's how I take those things. Like, hey, how's it going? Like, what's things like? What do you think about this whole thing? And for me, those conversations were some of the best parts of the experience of convention.
Absolutely.
That it was somewhat like a family reunion.
Yeah, and it's the networking side of things too, right? And just connecting with people that aren't always necessarily like-minded in ministry, might not have the same opinions as we might have, but it's still nice to sit down and share a meal with somebody, right?
Right. So that just great in that way. Another big picture thing that I think is helpful for people is that my perception is that most people were very convinced that what they were saying was right. And so it's less of an interpretation of an event and more of a observation. So I remember telling you about this. I looked it up again. So the book is called The Righteous Mind by Jonathan Haidt, the same guy who wrote Anxious Generation. The subtitle for his book is Why Good People Are Divided by Politics and Religion. And it's one of those where we are convicted on what we believe, right? And the temptation, I think, for everyone in the room is to make like an assumption that this person is like wrong, ignorant, foolish, etc. And so an observation that I had about myself, I'm curious if you saw this come out at all, is that I think sometimes, at least when maybe I'm not emotionally involved as much, it's very easy for me to see the other side and like see their reason for that. So like on some of these contentious things we talked about, it's like, well, I understand like why they're so passionate about it because they believe this thing. And so that was like maybe an infuriating thing for you. I don't know what that made you feel as I was like, well, Derek, like think about it this way. Like then maybe you would see why they're
No, I would say that for me, just kind of watching the whole process, speaking with people who are there that I respect, that have been in ministry far longer than I've ever been or can maybe imagine being. We got a long ways to go yet.
Lord willing.
I would say it broke down, I don't know if it tore down walls, but it definitely broke down some barriers for me to see why some points and things were said and phrased the way that they were. Right. It was definitely eye-opening in a good way to some of the things that happen at the synodical level that it's like, okay, I have a better appreciation and understanding of why things have been done in this way or that way and what has been shared and not shared. And so I would say that it was more grounding for me in that.
Sure.
That I was able to, because the first day I was pretty spicy.
Was it the first day? I thought it was the first day.
Well, it was the first full day of business. Okay. So if that was Monday or Sunday, whatever, I'd be quick to be like, nope, look at that. This is going, here's this.
Mr. Consistency Police over there.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that should be a point of order. Yeah.
But, I mean, it was a good exercise in trying to, again, because we are one body, we are united in so many ways. It was a good exercise in trying to, I don't know if it's empathy, because that's usually more feeling language, but like a thought experiment in why is that person saying it in that way with such passion and vigor type thing. And, at least as someone who leads people, I think that's a good skill to practice. Because oftentimes when people come and share whatever is happening, the presenting thing is not always the thing, right? Usually it's some sort of value underneath that. So the thing I wanted to say about the book, I've not actually read the book. I think I maybe started it. And so I used AI to give me a summary. So, disregard whatever I'm about to say if you want. But the main premise of the book, according to Claude, is that moral judgments are first gut reactions, then reasoning, which makes sense, and I think helps people understand, well, why can people who are good disagree on things so vehemently and so strongly? And so I think that's a great way to think about, a great way to frame, a great way to say, hey, maybe the ability I have to give people the benefit of the doubt and not become incredibly cynical.
Because it would be very easy to, if you went into convention and
Right.
So I absolutely see how people have gone and left and no, I'm never going back.
Right. It could grind. It could be one of those slow grinds, just like.
It's like nails on a chalkboard over and over and over.
No,
again.
I'm thinking more like cheese grater.
Oh, sure.
You just gotta grind. Just grinds you down, and then eventually there's nothing left but a pile or a heap. So let's talk a little bit about resolutions. And I have numbers, but that was because I actually sat here and went through them. But
I'm going to get out my today's business
you're
for
good.
refresher.
Yep. So
The original, though, so forgive me if
there
there
an
was an
amendment.
amendment.
Yeah. It's also amazing how much I've already just completely forgotten. As I was flipping there, I was like, wow, yeah, we did that? Okay.
Oh, really? I feel like I have a fairly...
Oh, I've already compartmentalized convention and moved on to the school year. School is here. The next season of stuff needs to be on the forefront.
Well, this goes back to, I told you the other day that I'm having dreams about convention and the language and the verbiage and point of order, therefore be it resolved. Yeah.
So I would say one of the more positive things, and again, these are all I guess you could preface this with my opinion as a pastor, as Pastor Jared, right? Not speaking for our church, but my own personal thing. So you can disagree with me. You can leave me a note in the comments say you think I'm a heresy or a heretical person. That's fine. So one of the things I thought was very positive was, I think it ended up being Resolution 9-15, which was well, let me back up briefly. So there was a resolution that was brought to the floor, 9-18. That wasn't, it's not in that one, it's in a different one.
Right.
That was a resolution to take the convention, or take the presidential election of our church body out and bring it back into convention.
Right.
And so that then, in that case, the people from every circuit, etc., would be the ones who would be electing our synod's president. And that was one that was, I don't know if it was unanimously, it was largely voted down because there was, I guess you can probably tell us, I'll let you do that looking, but it was largely voted down because someone brought back up, I think it was 9-15, which was to encourage participation in the synodical presidential election.
Do you remember what day it was on?
No, I think the proposed resolution was on Sunday. That's where I remember seeing it, but I don't remember what day it was passed or dealt with.
It's a Wednesday thing, I think. Anyways, keep going.
And so the reason being why I found it positive is because it creates more involvement in the process. And so, yes, in convention, theoretically, every congregation is represented because every circuit is represented. But that assumes a lot. So that assumes that your circuit thinks entirely the same way, which may be in our district, the Pacific Southwest District, the best district in the LCMS. That might be true. But I probably also am willing to bet it's not true in every circuit in the PSD.
Sure.
But in some circuits, I know there is great division on thought and who should be in those positions of leadership. And so then the fight, if you will, or the battle to become who would be the one to go to convention and vote becomes much more serious of a thing. And so then, now that it's not going to be that way, it'll go back to every congregation gets
Two votes.
a pastoral and a lay delegate. Now, rightly so, the floor committee and that put forward the resolution said, hey, there's less than 50% of the people that could be voting participating, but that number is still like 5,000 compared to what would be 900 people. And so for me, that was just a positive. Hey, we're going to keep such a big decision because the president has a lot of power to put together floor committees, to choose the slate of first vice presidents. I mean, there's a lot of authority that he has that it disseminates it a lot.
And some of the arguments against having like the congregations vote is that is one way that an individual can be reelected and reelected and reelected and reelected over and over again. But on the flip side, like when we were texting about it, it was like, even if that's the case, I still would rather have the congregations have a say in at least part of this, because the convention floor elects every other leader, every other leader. And so it was like, well, this one role, this one office, at least in my opinion, should be the congregations. So I don't have the number, but it was, so 918 was presented to the floor to bring the presidential vote back to convention. And then somebody got up very strategically. I don't remember who.
You sit right in front of me, Tim Eden. He's the guy that we had dinner with.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Which is pretty cool.
And went and said, I propose or I move a substitution resolution for 918. And he said 915, which 915 was not to change anything other than to work to change the amount of participation. And so let's work on the systems that we have in place and make them better before we just throw it out the window and say it's no good.
Right. And so there are some other concerns too about the horrible things that happen online around elections too. It's because it is an important thing, and because people think they're right, that sometimes leads them to do things that we would say break the 8th commandment, right? Not speaking well of other people, and et cetera, et cetera. So there's some thought that maybe this would help with that, but it's one of those, I don't think you can legislate morality
in any time that there's an election of any sort, it doesn't matter if it's a public vote or not, there's going to be
and you would hope that the church would be kind of above that, but nevertheless,
we are sinful human beings.
People.
Yep.
So another thing that I thought was really positive was 9-13. I realized a lot of the things I thought were good were in Floor Committee 9. And so this was about circuits. And so in the past, you could be a circuit if you met a few criteria. And so something like a limit of congregations, and then had to be a certain level of membership as well. And so as our church body has declined quite substantially, a lot of circuits now were requiring special president of Synod, I think, approval to continue to exist. And so this resolution really helped sort of maintain, at least that's my impression, of the current circuits that we have. And instead of like forcing multiple circuits to consolidate, and then those congregations are less represented now, but not just that. Now those pastors, those church workers are probably not going to meet together as well, because usually that means the geography is going to be a little bit more spread out.
Right, and there was a pastoral voting delegate from Maine that got up and talked, and he said, well, here's some context. Our circuit is all of Maine, Vermont, and part of
New Hampshire, maybe?
Yeah, there's like 3 states up there.
Right.
And it's like, okay. And our circuit is the north half of Las Vegas and up into like Moapa area.
Yeah.
So geographically very different, right?
Like I think we needed special approval this time by synodical president for our circuit, because we didn't meet the membership quota or something like that, if my memory's right. But anyway, so a positive thing, I think. Well, we're talking about 9-11, I think, was another really positive resolution that was passed. So this was one that
Could have been contentious.
Yeah, our church body or our synodical president was somewhat, or not synodical, our district president, Mike Gibson, was somewhat instrumental in at least working on promoting, and as I've been told about it, which again is my understanding, that this will allow for districts in LCF.
Yeah, entities directly of Synod. So this does not impact
Not RSOs.
congregations
Not churches.
at all. It is entities of Synod, so the districts are an extension of the synodical office. So, yes.
So they can now do things like create special purpose entities. And so, as we were told as the floor, this would allow district or synod or any entity of synod, if they were gifted something like a property, to take it and to do something with it. Because in the current bylaws before convention, my understanding again was that they could do nothing other than sell it or give it to a different church.
They could do some work on it, but it was very challenging because the company had to, I think, fully align with what we believe as a synod. And while that's not necessarily a bad thing, but how many companies out there are like, nope, I'm only Lutheran and I'm only going to do work for Lutheran organizations.
Sure.
So,
so then the example they gave of this was that there's a project in Riverside, California, of a church and school that's closed, or like a church that's closed, or something.
yeah, or something
Anyway,
like that.
so the district has possession of the property, and they can now, as a special purpose entity, create something on that property that will then kick back income and support ministry.
Yeah.
Whereas they couldn't do that, and I think another concern was about liability. So like there was ascending liability concerns that someone could go after
Synod
if we didn't have these special purpose entities put in place.
And so, like, that specific example of the Riverside property, President Gibson's argument was property is way too valuable in our area just to sell and not...
We'll never get it back.
Yeah. So he's like, this is our opportunity to continue a ministry in a place that ministry was happening, but let's rethink it. But we can't do anything with that property because the buildings need to be updated, and we can't update the buildings because we can't have somebody work on it because of the old rules.
Right.
So this allows now the Synod to go in to find a construction company to do work on that property so that they can reimagine what ministry might look like there at that property in Riverside.
Right. So I think that's a positive thing.
I would absolutely say so too.
I'm all for trying creative things, especially what we might call like creative funding. I still think there's a lot of talk that needs to happen about that in the church. That's the only one I have about Floor Committee 9. One thing too I thought was very positive, Resolution 3-04 was a resolution about telehealth and just encouraging. There are some resolves that were like, hey, encourage church workers that mental health counseling is good and is right and is needed. And then it was asked of, I think, Concordia Plan Services to study a feasibility study, to do a feasibility study on what it would take to establish like a synodical telehealth network, because it's somewhat hard to find counselors that are Lutheran, right, that will do gospel-centered counseling type work. So I found that one really positive.
Yeah, that was very helpful.
Two more, and then I think I'll throw it to you on what resolutions you might have found helpful. 7-04 and 7-05. So Floor Committee 7 is our university system. And this was two resolutions calling for clarity around the prior approval process for faculty and for university presidents. And so this is the one where I don't want to get too far down into the weeds. But as I've understood it, every person who is appointed to a position of faculty and especially university president has to go through a prior approval process to even be considered.
I think only theology, though.
Okay. So maybe that's...
I believe that's the specific thing.
Okay.
The theology professors and the presidents.
Gotcha.
I think
Yeah,
are the
only
two
ones that
groups
have to
that have to go
that.
through prior
Yeah.
approval.
So,
I think,
you're right.
don't take my word on it.
And so for those, this will clarify what that process actually is. And so there's a similar process for the seminary faculty as well, but there wasn't a resolution about like asking for clarity for that. And so it's good to know, right? Transparency is good. Jesus says all things should come out into the light, or that at least they will be eventually. And so we can share that with them, which I thought was share with people. Which I thought
Right,
was
because
helpful.
there's a lot of questions of why did so-and-so not
Right.
get through when they've been in similar roles or something like that. So I think clarifying that and being open about those things is helpful for sure.
So those are the resolutions I found most helpful. Any that you remember that you were like, hey, this was, I thought, really good?
Yeah, there was a couple in here that were, I'm trying to help me remember. There was a couple for church work, like celebration, giving thanks and praise for church workers and what they're doing.
Sure. Yeah, like the
Across the board. There were some resolutions that were like give thanks and praise for this ministry or this ministry. The celebration of like our
150 years of black ministry, 125 years of Hispanic ministry, or something like that.
Yep. So there was a lot of that, which is nice, like as a church worker to hear. It's like, okay, there's actually some people who...
Right. Yeah, and like there was a resolution that said giving thanks for all church workers, and it included a list of like DCE, teacher, administrator, et cetera, et cetera. I don't remember where it was, though.
Yeah.
Yesterday you were saying something about church fellowship stuff, too. Or I think it was yesterday, or maybe at the board meeting. You had mentioned something about that. No. So there was a few resolutions where we approved altar and pulpit fellowship with some international church bodies.
we approved one with the Lutheran church body in Australia.
Yes, preemptively. And then
Preemptively. Yeah, it's not official yet. Let me say that.
They haven't had their first convention yet.
Correct. And then what was the other one that we did?
It was Bolivia. Is that right?
I don't remember.
I think so.
For sure. Yeah. But then there was some like, I think some wounds have been mended in our history with like the Wisconsin Evangelical Lutheran Synod. That their synodical president was here, or was at the convention and spoke with us. So I think that there's been some mending that has happened there that might lead to
something
more than just an an altar and pulpit fellowship down the road potentially. But yeah, overall it was just nice to see how we can celebrate other Lutheran church bodies around the world too.
It's interesting, like hearing, because you're talking about the celebrating ones, and it's almost like convention is somewhat designed to promote division, if you will, because so the ones that are considered non-controversial or non-significant, if you will, were usually put on either the consent calendar or the omnibus. So the consent calendar was something every day that the president and the council of presidents, so all the district presidents, approved to have, hey, these resolutions we think are not challenging, that we can just kind of say yes to together easily without having to deal with them individually. And so it would take a 10, eventually 15% vote to pull one of those out by the floor. But it's almost like it's designed, convention, to move over the good things and the easy things and just deal with the hard things that are going to make people angry and frustrated. And so I appreciate you calling that back to mind, because like it's something we didn't even read those resolutions other than their title. Resolution 1-3 to give thanks for black ministry, but we didn't like read the resolves. Usually it was just when it was on the consent calendar, it's just here's the title, here's the resolution, and go ahead and approve it.
But some of those weren't just on the consent calendar.
Right. Well, yeah, not all of them.
Yeah, because there was some discussion about, well, should we list certain individuals who have been a big part of this ministry or not? And then the floor committee would be like, well, in the fear of leaving somebody out, we just elected to not put anybody in there and just call attention to everyone who's helped. Right. But yeah, there was a lot of things like that I think were very good, that I think most people aren't going to C, and there's like give thanks to LCMS ministry to the armed forces, right? Like we do have a good number of chaplains who serve in our armed forces. So that was helpful. They even had like a dinner with the armed forces chaplains and things.
I think it was at our hotel.
Yeah.
I think it was we stayed at the Haidt Regency in downtown Phoenix, and there's a restaurant called the Compass at the top.
Yeah.
I never went. Did you ever go up there? I got up to
We
the
tried.
20,
We tried, and
24th, 23rd, 21st.
Yeah, that was
that's as high as you could go with your.
that was Monday, and we tried to go up, and then we couldn't. I was like,
10
I'm
minutes
going back
before.
to my room. It's like I need an hour. Yeah, but those were the good ones. Do you want to get any of the contentious stuff for the sake of time? We're
Yeah, I mean,
probably getting fairly close.
So the things that I would say I was surprised by, or a realization I had when I was flipping through it. So I've said this, which is now factually incorrect. So I have said that we referred a lot of stuff to the CTCR, and then I listed things like the role of women in the church. But if you go back through and actually read the resolution, nowhere in there does it say to ask the CTCR to actually write anything. So it says,
was it an amendment or
commend.
anything?
I don't think so, because maybe it was, but I don't remember. So anyway, at least into the original Today's Business, there's nothing about that. So there's conversation about what and how and the extent to which women
Do you remember what
should,
resolution it was?
should serve. It would be under 4, which was our life together. But there was so the two places I did find, there is a CTCR document eventually coming about IVF. There is a CTCR document eventually coming about AI. But then even the role of pastors, as there was a resolution that was passed commending to the Council of Presidents, to the seminaries, in consultation with the CTCR, to consider and to write an opinion about if only pastors should do the public reading of Scripture in a worship service. But it didn't say a CTCR document, so I've now misspoken twice to people.
But that was definitely discussed verbally, though.
Was it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Weird. So then maybe it was an amendment, and I just don't remember that it was an amendment.
Because a lot of those, the reason it ended up passing was because it was directed to the CTCR.
Right. And so that gave people the, hey, this isn't...
Right. We're not actually voting on it
We're
here
just
today.
really kicking the can.
Right. And that was the case specifically with the one about IVF. And that's a really close to home one, right? With Beck and I. Malachi is a product of that process. So that was a challenging one for me to listen to, but I was able to actually sit in front of one of the floor committee members that was on that committee, and he's like, no, all we're doing is sending this to CTCR. That's all we're doing. We're not voting on anything else other than to send it to CTCR.
Because I think people think, like, in that moment, it's like we're deciding what we think about this.
Yeah.
Like
but that's the way. There was an amendment that came up.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That was very much so. We're deciding this now.
Descriptive, prescriptive type thing. Prescriptive, not descriptive.
And so when that amendment got voted down, and then they got back up there and they said, no, it's just to send this to CTCR for their review and for them to come out with a statement. Then it kind of overwhelmingly passed.
Right.
So it wasn't that we're condemning IVF, that we are any of that right now. It's, well, we want people to look at this from a theological standpoint and to give recommendations on it.
Right. Another, call them hotly debated one, we went to the floor committee 6, right? That was the pastoral formation committee, floor committee. And so we were in that room, and there were so many people that wanted to speak. They had a list of people that were...
Yeah, you had to go up to one of the guys on the floor committee to get your name in the queue, essentially. Right. And then they would call you up when your name was...
And so that the resolution was about fully online Masters of Divinity or residential alternate route program. Not anything else. So not about specific ministry pastor, SMP, not about the cross-cultural ministry program, the CMC, CMC. I forget what the one out of Irvine is called. But anyway, so that resolution passed that we reject online MDiv and RAR pastoral formation.
Right, like no online classes type of thing is the way but there's some there's some aspects that can be online,
right.
but there are no like specific online classes.
Right.
Because the question was even asked, well, what about a class that should be offered online for somebody who's at residential seminary? Mm-hmm. And they were like, nah.
Well, so like I went to an online class in COVID, and so that was an example someone brought up, and they were like,
and they said
that's fine. That doesn't count. Very unique circumstance,
right?
Which I think is a pretty fair.
Correct. Like I would say so.
I
too.
pray to the Lord we do not have another COVID, please, Lord.
Yes.
And so that was. I mean, I think again, I can understand the rationale. So for people who argued for that resolution, for them, the formation that happens in person, not just in the classroom, but as being part of the seminary community is so important that they are willing to say, we do not and will not do anything else.
Right.
And so I can understand that, get it,
yeah.
I was a part of it, it's great. But there also is the great need for pastors in our church body too. And so, there was resolutions to affirm SMP, to continue, even in that, was to continue to study how to form and get more pastors.
Yeah.
But for some people, this was the hey, we're going to, in the face of a pastoral shortage, sort of tighten the gates.
Dig our heels in.
Right, even more. Mm-hmm. And so for those people, that's a somewhat hard thing. And just personally for me, I am a tech-forward person, right? I am an early adopter. I am not afraid to try things. And so, if you look back in history on things like the automobile, on things like the train and locomotive, on things like the credit card, there's some really funny YouTube videos of people just making fun of people using credit cards.
Oh, yeah.
And crazy things people said about the trains and automobiles.
Yeah, if you go over 25 miles an hour, your blood's going to boil, right? It comes from a place of just, I think, one, fear, but also not knowing what the future holds and how it can be more useful than harmful. But with the pastoral formation, that's the direction that our Synod is going. So it is what it is. But that doesn't mean that the doors are closed on other opportunities.
We can always pass a resolution in the future to undo that.
And so, there is a great need for things. I wish that there would be more discussion about it. And not just about that, but just training of church workers in general, and how that can be done maybe in a hybrid model. I don't think any of us who are asking for more discussion about those topics are saying that the residential route is not the best way to do it, because of the things that were all brought up. It's we're all in agree. We don't disagree that those things are good.
It's a lot of talking past each other, I think.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next 3 years, if anything changes. If it doesn't, I don't know.
Right. So I think those are sort of the big ones. I mean, there's a commission on worship that was reestablished. But I think, again, it's funny how much I think people's interpretation about this stuff is all fear-based.
Yeah.
It's all what's going to happen later type stuff. It's not even necessarily a what's now. It's what could come is scary.
And when the commission on worship was presented, again, to the committee or to the convention floor, it was okay, well, what's the purpose of this? Are you trying to dictate
why do we starting this? Why was it killed? Why is it being
But it was at least for me, it was very apparent early on, because they were well, we need a new hymnal. It's been 20-some years since we produced the LSB. So we need to put this commission together because it's going to take us another 5+ years to just rework a hymnal to present to people.
I hope it takes a lot longer because we just bought hymnals.
Well, but the floor committee that presented it, he's well, it's probably going to be 20 years before we actually get a new hymnal. Right. But we got to start the work now so that we can have a hymnal in 20 years. So it was very interesting. And once that was presented, it was okay, the job of the Commission on Worship, at least in how we were explained at the convention, was they're not going to necessarily dictate how we worship, but they're going to work on hymnals and other things around worship.
Right. So, any other resolutions you want to talk about? Otherwise, I have a closing question for us.
Go for the closing question, because I think we're about at time.
Derek's like, we need to end this.
No, like
no one wants to watch an hour and 20 minutes of us talking.
So
about
before you
convention.
say this, though, too, the one thing that I've been asked over and over, and from anybody that I've talked to that knew that I went to convention, they said, "Well, did you enjoy it?" And
No one's asked me that.
Really?
No, everyone's asked me, what did I learn? How was my conference? What did I learn?
Interesting. Well, so let me answer this, and then I'll ask you the question: did you enjoy it? Okay. So my answer has been, I enjoyed it very, very much so. It was a very unique learning experience to where, even though there were things that I didn't agree with and that I would hope that might change in the future, that it was eye-opening for me. I have a new appreciation of people who don't agree with me on things. I have a newer appreciation of like some of our leadership, even all the way to the top. And I'm not afraid to say this, President Harrison, like, great job.
He
like
does a great job running the floor.
It was, and there were times where I'm like, okay, I don't know.
That was a little sketchy.
Yeah. But I thought he did a wonderful job of managing some of the more contentious things, where he didn't interject his own personal thoughts or opinions. Where when it was 20 minutes of debate time, it was 20 minutes. All right, let's call this to question. Do you want to end debate or not? And if not, then it was allowed to happen, right? And so for me, that was one of I think the coolest things is just watching the process and how it went. And also, if I don't agree with something with somebody else, it's like, okay, well, I can see their point, their side more clearly now. So overall, it was a great experience. I would do it again. And I've even said that I will go and I will sit in the back if I don't get to be an advisory delegate again. Because I
wouldn't
can't
go for all days. I would just go for a couple days.
I can't ever be a voting delegate because I'm a commission minister. Unless
you become a pastor.
Unless we change
you become a pastor.
The voting delegate stuff later. Or I guess there would be 3 routes that I could become a voting delegate. I become a pastor. We change it so that commissioned ministers can be a voting delegate. Or I were to resign my call and resign from the roster. Because then I could be a lay delegate.
Right.
But then I'd have to resign my call and resign the roster, and I'm not going to do that.
Right. So here's my closing question.
Well, did you enjoy it?
Yes, but I think that's, I'll get there.
Okay.
So coming out of convention, what gives you the most hope for the future of our church body?
The fact that there was as many younger people involved, whether we're all like-minded in all the things that we discussed or debated on. I think the fact that there are that many young people who are willing to serve in that capacity really bodes well for the future of our synod. I think that there's going to be some hard times ahead still, especially with declining membership, declining whatever, that we're going to have to face as a synod. But overall, I think the amount of young people who are serving is a very good sign for the future.
Right. So for me, I think yes, I enjoyed it. But for me, the most hope-giving thing is that at the end of the day, Jesus is still Lord of his church. Right? And
absolutely.
You look at the Bible and you see the horrible, messed up people who made all sorts of bad decisions, bad choices, believing they were the right choices. And yet, God's will is still done. Jesus is still Lord of the church. And so, it's one of those that you can't forget, that doesn't matter what you feel about this or that or whatever, that it's not our church, it's the Lord's church, and he is at the head of it, and we are merely members and parts of it. And so that gives me the most hope, because it's sort of the, hey, in the face of many reasons to be skeptical, to be concerned about the future, you say, well, Jesus has got it, and he will work through sinful, broken people like me and all of us, because it's exactly how he works and what he does.
Yeah, I don't think that there's any other way to look at it. And I think that that was very evident, very true, that no matter what conversation we had, it was always very much so. Again, we're more united than we are not. And it's very evident to see Jesus and God at work in our synod and through our churches, big and small, across the nation, different contexts around the world. So yeah, that was a true joy to see too.